should start doing this more often. Let's start doing this more often. I
Okay.
think I think more educators should do this. I think this is really cool what we just I think the shit we just stepped in, I'm kind of liking the way it's feeling between my toes. I'm not even wearing shoes. It's just I know I can rinse it off, but I'm gonna stop for a moment and just go, look at that. Look at that. I did not even see that shit. I stepped right in it. I like this. I think maybe other people kind of figure this out, but I remember it was a couple podcasts ago. You and I were just talking about sending Gmails to the future.
hmm
And I forget what was the one that you sent to yourself. Can we even say that? Was it an on ramp conversation? Do you remember the one that you
It,
sent?
it was an on ramp. I'm happy to share. It was. I have a subscription that I don't want to pay for anymore, but I
Oh,
don't want to let it go now. I want to let it go a few days before it's due again. So I sent myself an email into the future saying, "Today's the day. Go and cancel it now."
so it's like it's a really kind of like global way to give yourself a reminder, as opposed to just putting on your device. Sometimes on the device, if you're not holding the device, I know for me, I'll check my email from multiple devices. So this is good. I like this. So I won't reveal what's the actual email that I sort of said. I don't want to do that because I I'll just say that I just, suggesting to you right now that I send a Gmail to the future. I schedule it for 4 or 5. I don't know. I won't tell you how many years in the future. I'll just send it. I've told you I'm going to do it. Um, I think this is a really cool, almost fun, I don't know, invigorating level of accountability. Because the thing about reminders, if you're just using the reminder app, typically you're bound to whoever's in that ecosystem. So yeah, sure, you can sort of include other people maybe with the reminders app on the iPhone. I don't know if you can. Maybe you can. Maybe you can tag other people in. I know in calendar dates you can invite people, but this is a really interesting little bit of accountability. So you send an email to yourself in the future and you CC other people on it. And whatever, a month, 2 months, 2 weeks, 4 or 5 years from now, the hope is that you're still in a relationship. But imagine if you're not. Imagine if you're not in a relationship still with that person that's, social or even professional. And you forget, pops up in their feed, you're looking at it, and maybe it's like 4 years from now, you've reduced your smoking by half. And you include other people on the CC line just to have accountability. Hit send. And whatever, after 7 seconds, you can't get that shit back. It's out there. Whatever Gmail has on that, undo send, and it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then it's out there. There's nothing you can do. And then 4 or 5 years from now, you get a message. Maybe it's a text, a phone call. It's like, hey, email from the past just showed up. How you doing with that no smoking thing? Have you managed to reduce by half? Damn, I love this. I love this. I don't know why this didn't occur to me, like the broader usage of it. It feels like we've put some effervescence into reminder lists. Like it feels kind of fun. I just might send a bunch of these just to like people everywhere.
This is awesome. Club
Yeah.
is you're gonna be yeah,
Time capsule, the time capsuling of emails. I
it's
like
great.
this.
I think it's a great way to be reminded of something. I know I've got other emails. So I've been doing this for a little bit now. Whenever I started when I discovered that you could schedule send an email, I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. I need to know about this at this time." Yeah, you can put it in a calendar, but you know what I've noticed about myself? I don't automatically go to my calendar every day, and I don't have it always popping things up in front of me. So I needed to find another way. And the other way is, oh, you wake up, you look at your phone, and I've got the same email sent to my personal Gmail, to my work Gmail, to another account. Like then I'm like, "Oh, I must deal with this because when I wrote this a year ago, I sent it to 3 accounts on purpose. I know the power of that and how it must have moved me at the time, so I better deal with this now." Even the language I've used, so for my subscription that I need to cancel in the spring, the language is you must stop what you're doing and go do it now. And I've even laid out like here's the link, here's the login, here's the password. There's
Love
no
it.
reason why you can't do this now. Everything you need's right here.
Love it.
Because I guess at the time when I wrote the email, there was a fire burning in me.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm not getting ripped off again by this company because it's one of those things where if I cancel it today, I lose everything. It's not like I can cancel today, but I still have everything till the actual day of renewal. And I'm like, what kind of business is this? No, that's not cool. So I use very strong language. I will delete that account a couple of days before it ends to make sure it doesn't come back up. Long story short, this is a good practice for a number of different reasons. You suggested in the on ramp that we should send me an email in the future, and I was like, Clough, and then you just went ahead and did it. So it's awesome. I
It's
appreciate
sent.
it. It's
It's
sent.
sent. October 2029.
Oh wow, that's amazing, bro. October 2029.
Yeah.
That's friggin'
Simple.
fantastic.
Sent.
Okay.
I get what I like, and I have not made 1,000 good choices when I was in that impassioned lit up stage. And I've actually made very few bad choices in that exact same moment. So if I look at the odds, like that dollars to donuts kind of a moment, me not making these impassioned decisions in the moment when I should have, I'm actually at a loss. I actually have missed out on opportunities because the numbers that I have where I've made good choices as well in the passion in those passionate moments. And some people would argue that in those moments you should take a moment, take a breather, whatever. But I will tell you, uh, you know, X number of time out from that moment when I should have made the decision, I have more phantom wins than I have phantom losses when I've actually thought about it afterwards. My choice as to how the actual circumstances played out, I actually did have the right choice. I should have made the decision then. So I think there's this kind of like, heart, gut, mind synchronicity that, when they say, trusting your instinct, it's far more complex than just, that technical step of trusting your instinct. It's heart, mind, gut, right? And I just know that the things that I haven't said yes to right away, um, the things I have said yes to and it was the wrong choice, that list is actually pretty low. And it's becoming lower and lower as I get older. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing because part of saying yes to opportunity means that you are prepared to risk and actually fail and make it wrong. So I understand that's one of the dynamics in this. But what I will say on top of that, I've missed out on opportunities because I've actually said to myself, I'm going to think about this. Maybe this is just passion. The rose color, it's too vivid right now. Take a second and think about it. And then life kind of crowds in and you never make it back. You lose the opportunity, the choice. It's no that the window's no longer there. Despite the fact you had the skills, you had the passion, you had the vision, you had the connections, you had the relationships, you had the resources. And yet you'd still kind of say, I don't feel worthy. I don't know if I should do it. So I like this. I think this is a phenomenal, it's lighting me up. I know that we've had a few moments like this in the podcast. This particular discussion is going to feed me through the whole next week. I know for a fact I'm going to be thinking about this and sort of looking at the opportunities and saying to myself, don't make this a Gmail to the future. Do not, this is not. Some things you have to plot out, right? You do have to plot out. I get that. But I like this because I will sometimes start from I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I'm too something. So I don't jump into it. I'll leave on one case in point. Right now, I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to throw my name in for our equity liaison. Dude, I got a lot of shit going on right now. And some of the shit that I have going on that I've invested in, it's actually, there's elements of it that have become suddenly more complex and not for anything I have or haven't done. It just has to do with other people that were going to participate. Well, I guess I can say this. So one of the things that become kind of complex, so I'm jumping in this year to, I'm the teacher that's a part of student council. So we had more people interested in it. I figure 4 teachers is a good number. That's a good number for me. I like that. Shared responsibility, accountability. We can sort of do creativity. Everyone can take care of kind of a chunk. We're now back down to 2. When we're at 4, I also had a conversation with the principal and I said, look, I'm interested in checking out the equity liaison this year. Now, that's no small role. There's a lot of stuff that comes with that. Our equity liaison works hand in hand with our mental wellness liaison, which works hand in hand with our indigenous liaison as well. Those are 3 different kind of in school consultancies that you go to board meetings and you bring stuff back to the staff to work on. When things changed with student council, I said to Karen, I'm like, man, I said, I don't think I can do that this year. I don't think I can do it. I think I'm going to be too buried in the student council stuff now just because of the scaling of the staff support. But then I'm like, what am I actually saying no to here? Like, what is it that's actually limiting me? Like, am I saying that basically what it came down to the decision, and this is what put me back in. I'm like, okay, because of the commitment in another place, I may not have enough time to commit to this fullest version of what I think this role should be. But do I have the relationships and resources to say I'm still interested, and you scale it back to what you can deliver and then slowly grow into the full position? So I have a year to kind of do that. Like, should I be expecting myself to be able to deliver the full role stepping into it for the first time? No, that's ridiculous. Despite my sort of experience and understandings, right? The different things I've learned about doing equity. So I'm back into it again. I kind of retrofit and kind of like it's back on the table. Like said to Karen the other night, I'm like, I can't stop thinking about, like, I don't feel good about walking away from this opportunity. So this is one of those that it's come that the board hasn't even sent out the, hey, principals, put a name forward. So I'm kind of, it could happen any day. It could happen any day. So it's kind of the thing. I guess I could just have a mental commitment to it and say, when it pops, I'm there. Or I can just let it keep permutating, like thinking about it, and we'll see. Anybody listening in today?
Yes.
There we go.
This is season 8, episode 5, number 311 of the Decoded Podcast. Good morning, Gary. Welcome to the
Morning, Gary.
podcast. And good morning, Rochelle. Welcome to the podcast.
Bon matin.
Bon matin, yeah. Uh, I made some notes here. None of them are going to make sense to anybody who's jumping in right now. But the first thing is, you are the Phantom Menace, Chris. And I don't even remember the context. I just wrote it down. I'm loving everything you said, because as you were talking about the equity role, what's stopping you, I often have the same vibe. As you know, maybe you don't know, but I think you know, I'm not, struggle's not the right word. I'm still adjusting to my new role. I'm still trying to figure out what my job is, but there's layers of what's happening at the same time. So I'm learning how to be an IEP monitor. I'm learning how to work in student success. I'm learning, I guess, the the normal components of this type of role, but I'm also teaching my e-learn class, which the big joke is with me and my teaching partner who's also doing an e-learn is like, sometimes we forget that we even have an e-learning class, because what we're doing as the monitor job is so all encompassing and takes up so much time and doesn't seem to have boundaries with respect to time, that the e-learning, it's there. And I think I'm doing better at this now than the first couple of weeks of school. But I'll say to people, I'm leaving and you're not going to see me until 5th period when I have to be back in here, because there's things happening. The kids in the e-learning are writing quizzes. They're doing assignments. I need to assess those assignments. I need to provide feedback. I don't want to wait 2 weeks to give them feedback. Like, I would like to have it somewhat immediate, so that if there's a problem, then they have an opportunity to go and fix it if they wish. So there's a lot going on. Even this weekend, it's the weekend. I've got a list this long of things I need to do, because if I don't do them this weekend, this week's going to be, it's not going to be good for this coming week. And I'm not interested in piling on. I'm interested in taking things off, and some of those things are the e-learn class. And now I've forgotten my whole point in this, in my what I was sharing. Basically, I remember now. My principal sending out emails saying, "Hey, we're looking for a person or two to take this on. We're looking for a person or two to take this on." And some of the things that he has shared with the staff have been very interesting to me.
Okay.
But then I think I can't do this. And then when I really dig deep and think, why can't I do this? It's because I'm so I'm so like buried in my current work that I actually get paid for, that I don't know where I would slip in the things that my principal is making available to us.
Mhm.
So I literally delete the email, because if I leave it there, I might chase it. So I delete it and I'm like, no, I can't. There's too much going on here. And even I've discovered now, even when I get a low time, that does not last. Like, so I kind of cherish the low times, because they literally are gone an hour and a half later. So a low time for me is my list is looking under control, and I'm on top of the e-learning, and I don't know, things just seem like they're good. The balls
This
aren't up in the air.
maybe um maybe that's something that needs to be, and some, I know Gmail does this. You can actually, like, you get prompts. The AI kind of goes, "Do you want to reply to this?" You engage with it and then you ghosted it. Like, it's almost like the inbox is configured in a way to remind you now of shit that's just been sitting there stagnating. But maybe those opportunities are something that you need to kind of put into an email to the future. Maybe that's the way it works. I mean, maybe it's easy. I get the reason that you would say no right now. I need to kind of clear this out of there. But maybe in other cases, it is I'm going to put this, I'm going to do a forward to the future. I'm going to forward it to myself in the future, a month from now, and let it swing back. And then you kind of do as I remember when we were doing our guest list for our wedding, we kind of had a rule. We really didn't consider anyone for the list. I forget our number of months, but I think it was like we really didn't consider anyone up for the guest list as a starting point that we hadn't interacted with. I think it was maybe in the last 12 months. Like, and that was just like, so that eliminated all friends from a long time ago, because we were looking to get a high concentration of both interesting and connected people at our wedding. I think there's a mindset that you can steal from there and do it to opportunities that are presented to you from the board. Um, I have another similar kind of mindset that so for example, if I say to myself, no, I don't want to buy this thing, and I do have an completely clear, and the reason is I'm just like, and I'll have criteria as why I don't want to buy a thing. For example, right now, um, I might be buying a new bike today. So the bike that I'm on, so four-person family, we've got three bikes. So it's kind of like the kids' bikes they outgrew. So there's two adult bikes that one has made it to one kid, and the other one I've said, you're welcome to ride my mountain bike. So the one that I poloed you about, the one that I've ridden in the past. I don't need, so that mountain bike, it's a great bike. It's too much bike for me just riding back and forth to work, because that's what I want it for. So I've sussed out one, the price point is fine. My process to this has been like just ridiculous as far as a shopping adventure goes. Four different shops prior to this moment, four different shops, all four at some point there's different styles I've been looking at, said to me, this is the short version of this, said to me they had the inventory. Three of the four places I actually went to, when I got there, they're like, there was a mistake made. We actually don't have the inventory, but we can order it for you. I'm like, no, thank you. The fourth place, I called ahead of time and they're like, yeah, we don't have that bike. I'm like, okay. So I got used to it. Fifth store, I think I'm on now. I saw a bike. I said, I'll think about it. They messaged me. They said it's in. The time in the conversation, though, the price point changed. It went way too high. They were still offering summer sales. So when I first saw it, I'm like, nice bike. Didn't get back to it. I got too busy. Got a message from them saying, okay, You interested in this bike? I'm like, no, that's too high a price point now. So then they messaged back. They said, okay, what is it that you're looking for now? And I said, look, I'm looking to keep it between this. So yesterday I went and looked at a bike. They're bringing another one in today with the right size. I'm at this point, not because of my frustration and looking to close the deal, like just being pissed off at these other stores and not getting the bike. Right now, it's a good time to buy a bike if there's any inventory left. So I've got that in the back of my mind. I know that if I wait to the spring, it's going to be all full price. Everything's going to be full price, right? I'm not really prepared to do that. And I don't know if I have all the money to do it right now, but I know by doing it now, it's a better price than if I wait to the spring. Or when that big check comes at the end of June, right? You feel like you got beaucoup to cash, but you really don't. What I kind of do is like over the course of a week, if I can't get the idea out of my head, and I mean this when I'm in doing other things, it keeps creeping in and pops into my head, then I know that's my gut saying, you need to make this decision now. You need to make this decision now. Now, understand, I have no messages on my phone. I have no emails. This is just my own onboard kind of like reminder system. Like, don't be an idiot. This is something that you need to say yes to right now. So it is at that fork, right? Of saying yes to a thing that if I offload it, I know in this particular case, I will regret it because I have enough information to know that I won't get this particular bike. So be it. There'll be other ones like it. But I also know I'm going to pay an extra probably 20% in the spring. And that is what is sort of keeping this idea. So I like this whole conversation about opportunities, talking about your wedding list and all that kind of stuff. Because I would love to, dig into it with other educators about those opportunities that they did say no to, and they knew in their whole fiber they didn't. They just didn't do it. And then a couple months down the road, they're like, damn, I wish I could replay that. And how they've taken that and re-embedded it into their own sort of like personal pedagogy of teaching themselves something, saying to themselves, okay, I did this before. I need to learn differently or unlearn that tool that when I do have harmony between head, heart, and gut, I need to move forward with it because that's where there's no guarantee. You're only making progress, not perfection, but guaranteed something kind of interesting is going to come out of this. Maybe it'll be the result that I'm looking for. Maybe it'll be a failure. And it's just, I now have the information, better information to be successful. I love this. This is going to light me up for the whole week.
I love
As
this.
I'm riding my new bike to work.
Right on. And if you get the bike, I can't wait to hear about that. That'd be a cool video. You acquiring a new bike. I love that idea in my mind. HHG, head, heart, and gut. You can't go wrong when that combination hits. I've had head, heart, and gut moments where I'm like, I'm screwed now. And I'm screwed because if the head, the heart, and the gut are all saying the same thing, I know I'm going to pay for it later. I don't know how or why, but the joy of HHG coming together,
There's a
it,
duality. I
it
like this.
it's intoxicating and it's exciting and it's life moments for me. I would call that a life moment.
Here's the thing. For me, it's not. It's not. It's intoxicating when only one of those elements is there in front of me. That's what I would argue it for myself. Too much in my head, too much in my heart, too much of a gut. Those are the ones that are just like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Like I don't like that. When all three are standing there, I feel like sometimes now I've come to learn. I'm like my dog when they know that they've just barfed on the floor and they kind of they look over at me and they're like I feel a little shook. I wouldn't say that I feel like that vibrancy of it. I'm like, right, I have to make this decision. It's almost like I worry about all three being in alignment, for better, for worse. It feels great if they're in alignment towards something that's actually positive. But I've been in a similar situation, like you said, like you're like, oh, damn, I do have to do this thing, don't I? And your gut's like, yup. And your brain's like, I second that. And your heart's like, for sure. Like, it's like, you got to do this. I'm like, oh, okay.
I actually have a head, heart, and gut moment that I'd like to share if that's okay with you.
Do it, man.
So I've said already that I'm in a new job. It's kind of taken up all my time, all my brain space. but I got my drone up in the air the other day at work, and it was a HHG moment because I was like, I came to so basically what happens, I go to work and I start my day, and I just anytime that I'm not supposed to be in a classroom, I'm sitting at a computer working on something to the point where as time is and I'm like eating my lunch as I work, and right before I need to go to my fifth period class where I need to be in a room, I'm literally, bro, my eyes are glazed over and I feel like a bad drunk. Like I've been in front of a computer way too long. My fingers are moving, but my brain's not really in it. It's I saw a thing last night which got me it it jolted me into getting back to work. I was sitting downstairs hanging out with the bunny, and I was just mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, I think, and I saw a picture that said, "You're tired? Do it tired." And I was like, yeah, it's time to put the phone down, crack open the Chromebook, and get back to work, even though I was exhausted. So, having said that, this is what work has looked like. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I don't want to come home and have 8,000 hours worth of work. I'd rather do my work at work and then do my home at home and still do stuff at home, but it's not the same, right? Trying to make the best use of my time. But the other day I was like, you know what? I got to get the drone up in the air. I'm working on a project at school, and I want to make time for the project. Not, I don't need to, I want to. And I was like, well, I'm allowed to go do whatever I want at lunch. So today at lunch, I'm going outside with the drone and I'm going to get it up in the air and I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try some stuff out. My head was in it, my heart was in it, and my gut was like, it's happening. It's happening. Get out of the building before someone pulls you over and says, Jimmy needs to talk to you about a problem. Come on, man, Jimmy. Like, it's my lunch, right? I get outside, I go to my car, get the drone up in the air, and I just start. It was so good. You know those moments where you're doing something you've done before, like my fingers knew exactly what to do with the controller. It was like it was great. I'm going to get to a scary part before I get to the good part. So scary part. So I'm in the parking lot and I'm kind of in a space where nobody can see me, which is awesome. And the drone's up in the air and I'm trying to go around the school. Well, halfway around the school, I lose connection. And I'm like, the controller says you've lost connection. Reestablish connection. I'm like, oh, this is not cool. So I start walking and I start walking closer to drone, hoping that I'll make a connection. Um, it didn't connect, and finally it says returning home. So when you initially start up, when I initially start up my drone, it records the GPS of that position, and so if it's out of connection for too long, it will return home, which is pretty cool. And it's a
Mhm.
good reminder to me to make sure that wherever I launch from, that I launch and I don't move forward until it's high enough over everything. So it doesn't, because on its way back, it doesn't know if there's a light pole or a tree. It's just going to
Mhm.
come down wherever it's going to retrace its steps. So I need to make sure that I get it in the air in a clear spot so that when it returns home, I don't have to worry about it landing in a tree or whatever. So now it's returning home, and I've never experimented with that option. I've never had it return home. So it's coming, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, it's going over my car, and it's coming because I launched right behind my car. There was like half a meter between my trunk and the curb, and there was a tree. Like it was something. So as it's coming back, it's returning. It connects and says, okay, you're connected, but it's returning home. You can abandon this if you want. I don't. I watch it come down and land. Okay. Scary moment, but still fun. I'm still enjoying myself. I'm out in the sun. I'm playing with the drone. So then I move the drone I go to the front of the school with the drone, send it up, get some cool shots that I'm really happy with, bring it back down. I'm going into the school. It's still lunchtime, but we're moving into my prep. And I got to tell you, man, I was feeling like $1,000,000. So those 15 to 20 minutes outside doing something that I would have told you I didn't have time to do a week ago, I needed it. I needed to get away from the computer. I needed to get out of the space that I was in. I needed to do something creative, and it fed me. So when I got back in, I was ready to rock. I just put everything back away. I sent a couple of shots to my principal to say, "Hey, man, check out the school from 600 meters above," type of thing. I sent them to you. You saw them too. Like, I just felt this energy of like, okay, oh, I kind of felt my creative side for a second here. I didn't just feel it; I fed it. HHG, baby, HHG. I wanted to share that. I wanted to share that I was able to do something that made me feel alive at work, because I think halfway through the day with the lists that I have, I'm starting to feel a little bit like a robot, and
Mm,
I don't want to. I can't. I don't want to, because I'm working with people. I'm not working with machines. Which kind of brings me to my next point about I think I sent you. I saw on Instagram Dr. Robin. She's a psychologist, and I like her content. I interviewed her for my podcast many years ago, Roland Chidiac Connects, to talk about her journey to becoming what she's become. She was talking about to-do lists, and she said something about when you create a to-do list, make sure you also have a section for a to-be list. So I've started doing that. I've started writing my to-do stuff, and then beside it, I've got to be, and I've written stuff like compassionate, present, human. And it's really cool because when I look down at the to-do list and I see how I want to be as well as I'm living my day-to-day doing the things that I think I should be doing, it's been a nice uh, mind experiment, so to speak. I wanted to share that here because, as I've said to you, I've gotten so far deep in the work that I'm telling you my eyes are glazing over, but I'm like, I'm not. I still have 30 minutes here that I can milk, so I should. But as I say that, I tell you I spent 15 to 20 minutes outside, and it re-energized me for the rest of my day, and I was much more effective, which tells me that I need to get away sometimes. I need to step outside and breathe the air. The work will get done, and the work will never be done, right? Until the last day of June. The work's not like there's always something to do. There's always going to be a problem. And when I say problem, I just mean there's always going to be something that requires my time and
mhm,
energy as a monitor in the school. It's not, it's, there's always something that pops up. So I
mhm.
can't ever have a complete to do list. So I should spend more time on how I want to be and things I can do around the school to light me up, make me feel alive, and help me remember why I moved to secondary. Some of the some of the little bits and pieces of the benefits in my mind of being in a secondary school with these big kids who still act like little kids, which is very interesting to me. I get to see that a little bit more now. I'm comparing, I'm like, why are you acting like that? That's how like my grade twos used to act. I'm like, oh, well, you're still a kid. You're just in a bigger body and in a building that looks like a mall.
I often caution educators from dislocating students from their childhood. Like, don't upscale them. Don't do it. Don't do it. We know too much about developmental psychology. We know too much about pedagogy. We know too much about the courses they've encountered. We don't often know about their life, not right away. But when I hear this pops up, particular topic kind of pops up sometimes in student success, student successful or aiming to be student successful conversations where individuals, I get the sense like they are actually what they see in front of them is a young adult. And I even don't even like to say that because the young adult doesn't actually suggest that they're still a kid. It suggests that they should be in this next stage and they're not enough. They're not quite a fully formed adult, which in to a degree is a little bit insulting too. Why bother? Just call them they're a kid. Or better yet, call them what they are. They're 13. What do we understand about being 13? What don't we understand about being 13, right? Or whatever that number is. Um, yeah, I think that helps build a way better way to be in those moments, right? Seeing the kid, or just recognizing that any template without information, without relationship is bound to be flawed. Bound to be flawed. I like your to be list. I've never heard of that before. Though I can see how I've threaded that through my professional life and my personal life, accounting for my behavior, my mindset, my self-talk, my hope, my passions that tend to flow parallel to a to-do list. But I don't think I've ever set the intention of minding them. They just come to mind. I like that. I think it's a really cool tool.
I think a lot of people might do it without having to write it down, but I figured, you know what? I'm gonna try this. And I like it. I
Mhm.
like writing down how I want to be on this day as I do. I really like that. And it really for me, it really reminds me, makes me more aware of the idea that just because I have things to do doesn't mean it's not just a checklist, right? It's not just get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. There are people involved and there are experiences that will make me better, right? It will make me better. I didn't put to do for the drone stuff, but I think I'm going to start including the video I want to make on my to-do list because it reminds me I do have a lunch time. Like I'm entitled to eat my lunch without having to work at the same time. I'm entitled to leave the building and do what I think I'd like to do for me during that time. It's what's kicking in? What's kicking in is my veteran experience as a teacher. I know what I need to do to survive. So why am I not doing it now? And I think like a lot of things I might do with passion is I go all in and there is no stereotypical balance. The balance will come from me putting in a crazy amount of time, effort, and energy into work right now will pay off later, I hope, because I learned to become fluent. And once I'm fluent, then I can reestablish the kind of balance that I appreciate and that I want in my life. So, yesterday, that balance was achieved by getting out and getting the drone up in the air and doing some of the stuff that I like doing. That even if it was on my to-do list, it's not a to-do like I'm dreading, it's a to-do like I can't wait to get to this because there are some stuff on my list like I really don't want to meet with this student today. But it's my job and I'm here to do a job and I also model for students all the time. Hey, I get you don't want to do this and you don't want to go to class on time and this and that, but the this is where you grow. You grow by flexing in places where you really don't want to. You feel small and scared. That's where you grow when you step through those. The obstacle is the way. It's hard to tell, a 15-year-old that, and I don't say it like that, but I said to one kid writing a test the other day, one question at a time, and don't forget to breathe because you're not breathing. The whole time you're complaining, you haven't taken a breath. I need you to breathe, and I need you to do one question at a time. And even if you do a question you don't know the answer, make a connection. Do your best. You sitting here doing nothing and complaining and not breathing is just harming you. Nobody else is being harmed. Stop harming yourself. This was a student. I wasn't even supposed to be in the room at the time. But the student told me earlier in the day, my teacher said, for this period, I'm going to student success to write a test because you're there. I'm like, I'm not there during that period, but let me adjust my schedule so that I can still meet my obligations during that time for other people. And I will come in and I will check in with you. And I did. and she was elevated, and I was like, "I'm telling you what to do. I'm telling you what to do so that you leave this period feeling alive." I helped her out and then I left because I had other things to do during that period. That's the other thing that kills me about my job. Is like teachers are like, "Go see Chidiac in 208 because they know I have a relationship." But they're there 3rd period. Well, I'm not in their 3rd period, and I can't be in there all day because I have
Mhm.
other things to do. That's a friggin' fact. So, I'm doing a good job of not manipulating my mind like, "I need to be in there." No, I don't. If administration saw fit for me to be in there all day, then they would have put me in there all day, but they didn't. I'm not gonna trick myself into feeling bad over stuff like that. That's not cool. You told me what my schedule was, and nobody's gonna give me a pass if I'm like, well, I'm always in 208 because there's always kids in there that are on my monitor list. No one's gonna care. They're gonna be like, you can't be in there all day. You've got other duties, right? So knowing that, I'm doing my other duties and telling kids, hey, I'll meet you halfway. If you need something, you know where to find me, and I will step away from what I'm doing to help you establish some kind of balance. But I can't be holding your hand all day because they got me holding other hands during the day. I see that's the a-hole in me because as I say it to you, I'm saying it like an a-hole and I'm vibing. I'm okay with that. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. Other people could say it, and not so much an a-hole way, but I kind of want to be an a-hole because I'm like, no, you can't expect me to be everywhere all the time for everybody else. It just can't happen. And it's not going to happen. To be when I am released from wherever I'm supposed to be to help someone, I look at my to be list. I want to be compassionate today and I want to be kind and helpful. That's as important as the to dos to be.
You got me thinking of the other things we could put there too, right? I mean, you could put any verb, I guess, after it that's useful to you. To see, to understand, to feel,
Hmm.
to experience, to notice, to eat. That's a good one. To eat, your to do and your to eat list. Um, to love. Damn, there's nothing on that list. That's just a statement.
But
It's just there's no check boxes under it. Just to love. That's it. And you're like, right, right. Move with that. To love.
Gary says that he loves the idea of the to be list. He likes the intentional reminder for how you may interact and how you attend to your wellness. Oh,
Mhm.
you're welcome, Gary. Gary and I had a meeting this week. That's another thing on my to-do list. It was like check in with Gary and see if he can meet with me. And Gary gave me some of his lunchtime. Gary struggled with how appreciative I was of him. Gary, you're killing me, bro.
People
Um,
do that. People do that. I can actually, and I my entry level to that is whether or not someone says you're welcome when I say thank you. The only response, the only response that matters to me when I say thank you is you're welcome. That's it. Anything else, I just I it doesn't. I get it. I get it. I get it. But anything else doesn't feel as good.
Gary doesn't understand. Gary doesn't understand that as I talk to Gary about my job, e-learning, IEP monitoring, I don't really think he understands that I don't I don't offer myself in a vulnerable way often. I do not. Gary's in my e-learning class so Gary can see everything I see. Gary can read the feedback I've given kids. Gary can see the grades I've given kids. Now, I I trust Gary and Gary's in there. I Gary's in there because if I need help with something, Gary can see, oh, okay, this is how you do this or whatever. But Gary can do whatever I want. I've placed myself in a vulnerable position. I've only done that because I trust Gary as a colleague and as a friend. So if Gary wants to shit on me or praise me, I'm open to it because I've placed myself in a vulnerable state. There are not many people I would do that with. So when I thank Gary, and I'm very appreciative, and it looks to Gary like, wow, this guy's really laying it on thick, it's because I am, because I don't do this often. So when I do, it's an HHG moment. And for me, that's intoxicating. I really enjoy that. Not many people get that. And you should have, my favorite thing in my interpretation of my meeting with Gary, there were a few times where I felt like Gary was guiding me. If Gary was an a-hole, he would have said, "Hey, Chidiak, like what the frig, man? Wake up. You need to look at this and you need to look at that." He didn't say it like that though. He's like, "Hey, have you considered, or maybe you should consider this, this, and this, and it will inform you on how to practice over here." He did it like it was a great back and forth. And I was taking like crazy because I don't know. So I'm taking. I wanted to say that because for me, I guess HHG moments with people, that's a big one for me. There are not a lot of people I'm vulnerable with, and I know that. And I don't want to be. I don't want to let them in. And the best part about those vulnerable moments is that I can count, it's less than two hands, bro. Less than two complete hands, less than 10 people that I've actually been so vulnerable with that I'm wide open to criticism, critique, praise, advice, guidance, totally open.
That's a heady moment. That's a heady moment. And sometimes we don't, I think when you're in that space, the physics aren't usually right. Like you just um untethered, creative. You say vulnerable, but I think it's important to kind of disaggregate that down into, because vulnerable is umbrella, right? And for me to kind of nod my head and say I understand vulnerable, yeah, I think it's cool if you can get to a space to what that means. Like, is it fear? Is it love? Like, is that what like, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening in that space? I think it's important for people just to be able to put your own words to it. Because regardless, is that I think that there's a to admit vulnerability is different than to notice your own vulnerability, because it's a lagging metric sometimes. Oh, that's right. When I was hanging out with them, man, I was so vulnerable. I love it when you realize it when you're in it, because it's like there's certain universal things that are unlocked to you. You're like, man, I'm feeling some big feels right now that I just wasn't feeling before. Or I'm having some thoughts that like I wasn't making these connections before. I mean, there's a tropey meme kind of like someone just kind of, staring out into the universe, and it feels like you can, like you're so at one. But I think that's what it is. I think you do feel connected. Stoicism, it's the sympatheia thing. It's like you actually do feel a connection to universals, and they're not colored with any specific thing. You're just like, man, our higher, what did Stutz call it? Our higher, what was it?
The
Not
higher
the higher,
self or the
it's higher powers, higher
higher,
something.
yeah.
And it's that kind of like there is a spiritual level to it if you want to attribute it to a particular flavor of religion. I think you can stay in philosophy. I think you can stay in a spiritual kind of, you can stay in a humanistic experience. You just feel a certain connection or higher. I forget.
The
It's been
second word starts with an F because I've got them here on the cards, HF, and then it
is
tells
it
you the
forces? Higher
yes,
forces?
higher forces.
And I think he was speaking to the universals, right? When you're able to sort of like escape a certain biological way of thinking, whatever your hardwiring is, you're able to get into the software and kind of like just pick it apart a bit. I love those. And it does. And I think part of, for me, vulnerability is very close to fear as well. So there is a certain amount of, we've said this before on here, fear and excitement, has a similar, I think, physiological response in the body. Your heart races, you might get the sweats, you might sort of like have, you could laugh or cry at any moment. But I like that, the vulnerability factor. Good mention.
I wanna balance that. I wanna balance that with a experience I had this week.
Do
There's
it.
a particular student who's struggling with some things. It's been placed on, like, a caseload meeting was like, "Roland will do this." And so as I've been doing what I'm supposed to do to try to assist the student, I've been having conversations with one of his teachers. And it was funny because it started with the teacher speaking to me and me being very hands off in terms of I don't know the content of the course, but slowly over the week it's turned into a conversation that is in my wheelhouse: how to work with people, how to build connections, how to mix and mingle the students' accommodations with the teacher's personality. And I took full ownership of it yesterday when I was talking to the teacher, and the teacher said something that cued me. And I was like, listen, this is what I would suggest, because it sounds like a human situation now. It doesn't sound anymore like a math problem. It sounds it sounds like a human problem. So this is what I would do, this is what I would suggest. And I was totally flexing. I was like, you could disagree with everything I say, which is awesome, but I'm not moving off my position. As a 48-year-old human who has a master's degree in counseling, who's taught for over 23 years, who has a family, who has a podcast, who does this, does that. This is what I'm saying. This is where I'm landing. Is it 100% right? Maybe not in this situation, but I'm not deviating from what I just suggested to you. This is what I suggest we do next, because it's a human thing. And that teacher has as much human experience as I do, but this is where I'm landing in my role at the school, and in a human capacity. This is what I think we should do next. She was loving it. She's like, "Oh, this is amazing." I'm like, "Well, let's see how it plays out with the kid, because we're missing a key component here, which is the kid." But when we meet with the kid, this is going to be my foundation, and I'm not deviating from it, because that's where my values are, and I'm not deviating from my values, whether he likes it or not. There's room to maneuver, but I'm not deviating. So I'm like, Where do you stand on this?" Because that's where I stand. This is my position. Anyway, it was good, because at the end of it, I don't think she was expecting that kind of conversation. I think she was she was more worried that she was going to need to lean on who she is as a content provider and creator. And I was like, "Yeah, don't forget the human factor. He's a human, you're a human, so am I. And there are certain things that are non-negotiable. There's some things that are just not going to change. He's in your class. This is the period it happens. You are the teacher in that class. I am the IEP monitor. He is the student. There are some things that aren't going to change. So, how do we deal with those constants, and where can we flex? So, we have to start somewhere, and he needs to know who's in charge. It's not him. He's in charge of certain things. He's not running that class, and he's not running how I support him. Those things they're not deviating. This message needs to be communicated with the three of us together, and I'm fully confident in my ability to communicate that and to be wide open to what he says and what he thinks needs to happen next. The way I'm talking to you is the exact way I was talking to her, and she was like, "Holy shit, the confidence is coming off you." And I'm like, it's just a human thing. And I guess I kind of like dealing with that stuff, and I'm going to take some ownership here. I felt like, okay, if this is my job, I can do this, right? But then 10 minutes later, it's like, "Hey, this kid needs help with grade 12 chemistry, and you're the guy to do it." And I'm like, "Oh, shoot. I'm not the guy to do it, but I'm going to do my best to work with it." Um, Rochelle dropped a bomb. I know we're leaving soon, but Rochelle said, "Do you take time to discern with HHG moments, or are they just snap decisions?"
I got a thought.
Drop your thought.
There's nothing left in my coffee cup. So what I like about this is that it right away lights up my first. Are we setting up a binary here? Is this a fork in the road for Rochelle, or is this a binary as in one is good, one's bad? Right away, my brain wants to know that. As in, is a discerned decision better than a snap decision? So I'm just curious about that. And Michelle, you don't have to reveal, but I find that this particular binary, most times people will say snap decisions bad, discerned decisions good. My evidence is it could be go either way. Recognizing whether something needs to be a discerned decision or a snap decision is where I start from. And both of them have the potential to be good or bad. Because if you're still not making it's not the thinking about, it's not even the making the decision that makes it good or bad. And if we bring this back to what you and I kind of understand about Stoicism, nothing is anything until we judge it to be. So if you're having to make a decision about what you're having for breakfast, the moment you say, I don't like the idea of having oatmeal, that's a judgment. And that changes the course of the decision. Reserving judgment is really important, really, really important. So for me, the whether it's the discernment or non-discernment, or even making the decision, it isn't until I have the evidence on the other side that suggests to me that I could have done it in a different way. That's really what it has to come down to. I have to make a decision and actually start to live with the outcome. Now, does this mean that I will intentionally make bad decisions, like just to get outcomes? Yup. I love Wordle. If I make it to I forget how many rows you get, but if I make it to the fifth line and I still can't see the word, like I get to four, I think you get six, whatever it is. If I have two spots left to make the word and I've done the first 65, 70% of it and I still can't figure out the word, I will create the most ridiculous word using as many letters as possible just to see if I get green or yellow letters. And then I'm going to roll the dice on the last one with a guess. And I will tell you that strategy has actually led to me successfully completing on the sixth line more times than I can ever admit. I had zero clue as to where that word was going to go, despite the fact I had four of the letters. I'm looking at the keyboard that you get. Have you played Wordle before? Do you know what so Wordle, basically 5-letter words. And you put in a word. And then it tells you if the letter's gray, it's not in the word. If it's yellow, like the yellow highlight, it's in the word, but it's not in the right spot. If it's green, it's in the right spot and it's the right letter. Super simple. It made it big during COVID. Then the New York Times bought it up, I'm sure. And so I've kept it. I keep playing it every once in a while. I like it. But if I make it to that last line, I'm gonna say the sixth line. I'm on line 5. So I've done 4 lines. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell this word is. I will try any ridiculous word, no matter how silly. Now, it won't let you put in fake words, but I will put in a word that uses as many of the letters that haven't been used yet, just to see if they land somewhere. And then more times, 9 out of 10 times, I'm like, there it is. Now I see it. And I will take that 6th line. So I'm using a guess, random guess, snap decision guess with discernment. So I'm using snap strategies in a discerning way. So I love this. So Rochelle, I get that and agree. Just wondering if an HHG could occur in a discerned decision or just a snap one. It's across the board. I think this is that higher power, is that it's how you notice. Are you noticing, and this is where we kind of started this, is are you noticing that you're at this point where it's head, heart, and gut? And I said to me, where I make more mistakes and it doesn't turn well is when it's only one of the pillars. I can be compelled, or Chid said intoxified. It's intoxicating, not intoxified, intoxicating to sort of get that like, woo, gotta do this. I think the superpower is noticing, finding ways, and each of us would have a different thing to actually say, despite this intoxicating heart swell I'm feeling right now, can I do some gut on this? Do I have some head, some cerebral kind of things too? Because there will be like the big glowy one of the elements, and sometimes that can overshadow the other two. And maybe you need that. But if you just kind of take it up to 10,000 feet for a second, just say, am I also getting some cues from my head and my gut? And if that's the case, whatever your process of noticing, that is so valuable because the other two can also create a vote. They are giving you information and they're saying, don't do it. You know better. We've been here before. So I think it's the noticing. I think it's the noticing. And again, it isn't until you're on the other side that you have enough data to know whether or not it was for you. I made a whole lot of decisions that felt great, and I realized it actually wasn't for me. I was doing that for somebody else. And then you got to decide you want to operate that way. Maybe it was a benevolent, compassionate, magnanimous moment. Who knows? Great question. Great question. I would actually say next time around, or Rochelle, if if you feel safe, message me or Chids. Message me or Chids and let us know if you were ever at this crossroad. Like, is there something you can ground this in as a moment that you were actually in and you went in one direction and it was great? Like, if you can give us a specific example, I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it. DM me somewhere, DM Chids or Gary as well. Like let's make this a real kind of this is a real conversation, but let's ground it in something real that I can kind of go, yes, I know how big that moment is. Let's do a away from decoded kind of a discussion. I think this would be a great thing to kind of hang our further discussion on. Love it.
Rochelle's
Thanks.
cool with it at the moment, which is awesome.
This is the best thing about volunteer.
HHG says will do.
I like it, eh? This is the great thing about voluntary PD because we feel this. We feel like we want to continue the conversation. We want to kind of.
Sorry.
No, I'm taking a sip.
And I know we're going to leave, but this is a perfect. I had this yesterday. I was talking to somebody about this podcast, and they're like, what keeps you going? I didn't have the answer yesterday the same way I have it today. HHG keeps this going for me.
We are now in our 8th season of HHG.
Yeah.
It really is. Every day, there are some days, there have been days where something has come up and I'm like, that's a blockage. Can I get around it? I can't get around it. There's other days where I haven't felt motivated, but I'm like, no, this is what's good for you. It's good for you. It's like, you need to do this. You've been here before, right? Just that. And then you put it to the vote and it's like 2 out of 3. I'm like, okay, I'm in. And we show up here 7:30, 7:45.
It's reminding me of the inner authority, this business of dealing with your shadow, seeing the shadow facing you and give it your focus. You and your shadow face the audience and command them to listen. It's your shadow can wreck your day, man. Or you can just, I call it little Roland.
Yeah.
Sit with little Roland, be like, we're doing this. We got to get through this.
So Rochelle and Gary, a couple of years back, Chids and I discovered Phil Stutz. Really fascinating dude. Wrote a book with Barry Michaels called The Tools. Highly recommend it. You want to get, if you're curious, you want to find out a little bit more about me and Chids and sort of some of the discussions we've been having for several years now. We do talk a lot about stoicism. It is a backbone. There's The Tools, Phil Stutz. We came to it. We have a, I guess, on hiatus book club called Book Club for Men. And The Tools was one of the books that we talked about. If you want to get a light primer for it, if you have Netflix, there is, or was, if it's still there, a Netflix story called Stutz, and it's worth it to check it out. And so what Chids was just kind of quoting, there's also Ryan Halliday, which is also kind of like a backbone. The Daily Stoic is good stuff too. So Chids, just close us up. Tell us about the cards that you carry, because I like this.
So after we read The Tools, there was a group of us for the book club, as Chris said. As we were getting close to the end, I decided to take The Tools. So like this one's called The Reversal of Desire. And there's a tool for certain things you experience or feel. So you would use this tool when you need to take action that you've been avoiding, which is so general, right? You know you
Mhm.
need to do something, you're like, "I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it." I made little cue cards for these 4 tools on what the thing is, um, the cues that tell you it's that issue, and then how you move through it, how you use the tool to get through it. It's very these are simple, but you got to read the book, you got to watch the episode to get a better feel. And I created these. I've got these sitting here in the office, and I've got another pack of these in my car, so that when I'm out and about, I can refer to them, or when I'm home, I can come here and refer to them. Um, it was a that was a powerful book club for me. It was a powerful moment. I think Rochelle and Gary, you guys might know Mike McElveen, who was a teacher in our board who stepped away for a bit. When I talk to Mike, he talks about the tools all the time. So he took that book club that he was part of with us, and he has applied it to his everyday life and everything he does. I'll be talking to him about a problem, and he'll be like, "Yo, man," and then I remembered this tool. Like, he talks about them actively. That was that was a great book club moment. But anyway, it's a good book. Check it out. You may subscribe to the tools, you may not, right? Because we hear about stuff every day, and we don't pick up everything we hear. But that one was a good one.
The difference being to that is that Gary and Rochelle have spent time with us. They hear how we parse through and talk about education. This is source code for how you and I talk about education. This is source code for how you and I talk about being dads and just being friends. So maybe you're right. Maybe this just comes off as like influencer kind of chat, but it's, you and I are kind of living using these things, and we don't get a cut. We're not sponsored by. It's just one of those, as you said, transformational kind of potentially transformational tools that are very useful. That and stoicism, which the brand is Ryan Holiday, but the backbone of the philosophy is not his. He's building on other people's shoulders. So that's kind of our like part of our source code.
100%.
And then using it. That's the other part too. We've test driven it. So, you've created the cards, but also the go to it, use it, push yourself to think, to go deep, head, heart, gut. Like, what is this? What is this actually doing right now? What's the evidence? I love evidence. I love philosophy and poetry too, but I got to have the evidence if I'm going to say, now I need to move forward to it, because I like to talk about this stuff too and offer it up, especially in professional settings. And it's incredibly useful in education for my wellness and how I extend wellness to support new teachers, old teachers, just to shake up thinking. Love it.
Um, Good stuff, man.
Mhm.
Um, okay. uh, we're gonna shut it down. This is kind of funny. Rochelle does Wordle with her students in French. Of course she does. Très bien, Rochelle.
Bien sûr.
On that note, we're gonna shut
Mhm.
things down, if that's okay with you, Chris.
All good, man. Stuff to do today.
Right, 100% is what
I
my
was
brain
my
is like.
brain. Well, I thought you were about to say right, honey. And I'm like, that's
No,
all
no,
good.
right,
Okay.
100%.
Right, 100%.
I got things to do too.
Hmm.
This
I agree.
was season 8, episode 5, number 311 of the Decoded podcast. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll catch you
Yeah,
later.
thanks. Peace, Jim.
Peace.